Wow, I am so privileged to be here. In fact, at my age, I'm privileged to be anywhere, but particularly here in Christchurch today, because just 62 days ago, I was in Singapore. It was my first TED talk, but I'm thrilled to be here, or TEDx talk, I should say. Thrilled to be here for this one. My first one some 62 days ago. It was interesting because I talked about us drowning in a sea of sameness and how we can actually levitate beyond that. But today, a little more positive message. It is this: we are connected, I'm going to suggest to you, in a world that is truly a world of wonder. And one of the things we're going to be doing today is to explore that. By the way, what's the word right at the bottom of that again? It is what? Wow, very, very good. And we'll also take a look at this whole thing about connection, which every single one of us seeks to do. Not just connection with our marketplaces, but importantly, connections with ourselves. And over these last 30 years or so, when I've been developing businesses and having the privilege of traveling around the world and showing others how to do that, never have I seen what's been happening in the last 3 or 4. And I'm not talking there about social media or whatever. I'm talking about some waves that are coming at us that we can choose to be drowned by, or we can choose to jump on. Hopefully, as TEDxers, we will choose to jump on them. Here's the first one. Quickly, what's it called? You saw it come through? It's called the Woow wave. Very, very good. The Woow wave is interesting. It's that 18 seconds when we connect with someone, like the Yike Bike. We've got 18 seconds about, so they say, to make people go, wow. It can be kind of glitzy. It can be temporary. For example, I used to love my first smartphone. Right? I went, wow, look at that thing. And then the next version came out and my first one wasn't so good, you know, the kind of thing. So wows can be temporary. On the other hand, there's another wave. Take a look at this one. It's a bit deeper. Tell me what it's called. It's got 4 initials here, so go for it. It's called the Whoa. You got it so right. It's called the Whoa wave. And you notice the depth of that. The Whoa wave is something that is so deep that when we connect with it, it is permanent. It does not leave us. It connects in a very, very interesting way. Because what it does, you see, and you can combine the two of them. So that one, first one is called the Wow wave. This one is called the Whoa. Love the way you do that. And they are connected by you seeking to find out why. Why is it that we get up? Why is it that we're here? Not just here, but here, if that makes sense. And once we find the answer to that, some really interesting things happen in the way in which this works. I just figured out that. Look, the new www. Very interesting. So, in my first TEDx talk, I spoke about the wow. Today, good news, we're going to be talking about the whoa. And also about some interesting thing called moments. Those moments that happen that if we're quiet enough to see them, can literally change our lives and the lives of people with whom we interact. So it's moments that connect us, moments that connect us to us, as well as connecting to other people. So come with me on a little journey of my own kind of journey, if you like, for a minute about connection. So let's go back to April 2006. Here I am in Australia, traveling up to do some programs up in this place in India. There we go. Now called Bengaluru, but you and I know it as Bangalore, exactly. So doing a program up there in Bangalore, and on the Saturday night, one of my friends named Alex said, hey Paul, why don't we, he's Indian by the way, so he said, why don't we go and have dinner, surprise, surprise, at an Indian restaurant. And it had a wonderful sounding name. He said, by the way, is it okay if I bring a friend, someone you've never met before? I said, of course. So here's this wonderful sounding restaurant, the Grand Taj, take a look at that, in Bangalore, and we go inside, there it is, and for the first time I meet this guy. I say, hello, I'm Paul Dunn. He says, hi, I'm Pastor Selva. Now only an Australian could ask this question. I said, is that pastor, as in P-A-S-T-A? Or is that pastor, as in P-A-S-T-O-R? He said, it's pastor. I said, oh, great. So what's your story, as it were? And he said, remember again, April 2006, he said, well, 4 years ago, my church asked me, and this is one of those magical moments, my church asked me to go to an island off India with there were 2,500 people on this island, to serve those people, to build a wonderful little church. And I said, oh, that sounds pretty cool. He said, yes, it was. Notice the tense. I said, why was? He said, because one Sunday, everything changed about 16 months ago. He said, it was Sunday school. We were in the Sunday school. There were 12 children in the school. And I heard, he said, or we heard, this amazing noise, the like of which we've never heard before. And he said, I calmed the children, I went outside and I looked and I saw there was this wall of water that was clearly going to engulf us. Now, when someone tells you that, it's hard to know what to say, but I probably said, what happened next? And he said, I went into the church, I said to the children, we're going to play a game. The game is called, let's all hold hands and run to the high ground. He said, we did. And I stood there, he said, with 6 children on either side, and we watched as the church, like a matchbox, was just crumbled and just went away. And then I stood there, he said, with those 6 children, and I watched as their parents were washed away. Now, I really cannot remember what I said, but at some point, I guess I said, what happened then? And he said, well, we've spent the last 15 months trying to find, we got onto the mainland eventually, but trying to find some place to be with these kids. He said, about 4 weeks ago, we found somewhere. But he said, now it's pretty interesting. He said, because the kids need to go to school. The kids need books. The kids need medicines. And above all, the kids need food. Now, just imagine yourself in this restaurant hearing this. And so I said to him, so have you figured out what's needed for that? He said, well, that's my friend and I have been working on that. He said, yes, we have. It's $3,500 US that we need. And I said, oh, that's per child, right? He said, no, that's for all 12. Now imagine yourself at the grand task. You would say, as we did, hey, it's fixed. And you would not have known how to do it, but you would just say it's fixed. And we did indeed fix it. And 6 weeks later, see, that's the first moment, but sometimes the moments aren't as important as you think. 6 weeks later, Pastor Selva has gone down, Nathan has gone down to an internet cafe. He's borrowed someone's camera. So I get this email from him, which is a brilliant email. And there are 4 JPEG files attached to the email. Take a look, if you would, at the first one. It's the shot itself is not indicative of, in any way, shape or form, of the size of this house. It's actually very small. It looks very large, but it's very, very small. There it is. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. That's really nice. The next shot is inside the one room of the house, and he says, you see, the kids are doing their schoolwork now. They can study. Isn't that great? And then the next shot with some of his helpers is the same room, as you can see. And the little caption, if you like, is, and now they're feeding themselves, which is fantastic. But it's the next shot that changed everything. Because the next shot is the close-up of the house. And right across the top, they bring Paul Dunn home. When all of a sudden, you just get that there's reasons to be here that we didn't understand. You just get, whereas I thought the business was all about P, meaning P for a profit and all of that sort of thing, all of a sudden you understand that there is something else. All of us have this need to, as Jackie said, this need to love, to care, and to express it in some way. And often it's what other people give back to you that lets you see that. And once you get in that kind of space, some interesting things start to open up. And so about 3 months later, I meet this lady. She doesn't look like that when I meet her. Her name is Masami Sato. She didn't look like that at all. And it's really great, by the way. Masami has no idea that I've got her picture up here. But it's kind of neat that we're in Christchurch, because 10 years ago, this Japanese lady started her first business. She'd always had this thing about giving back, but she started her first business. Where's that? In Christchurch. Let me show you. By the way, she's a vegetarian. Let me show you her first business in Christchurch. There it is. It's a burger bar, which is kind of interesting if you are a vegetarian. And she transformed this, and here you see inside it, kind of cool. By the way, she did this when she just had her first daughter, so there she is right there. And the truckers used to come in and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. And then flushed with success, it started another one. You probably know where that is as well, down by the beach. And then flushed with success, you get these lovely things about grandeur. They took a look and they go, wow, across the Tasman there's this bigger place. There's more people, so let's go there. So off Masami went, still in the food business, still trying to find ways of giving back. This time she started, or didn't start this way, but eventually became a gluten-free frozen food company. The thing is, though, they had to dig the place out and create this whole thing. So there she is. Again, she has no idea I'm showing that photograph, and she'll probably kill me, doing all of that sort of stuff. But there you go. There's the kitchen. There she is making stuff, and there she is as a qualified chef. And then I meet her in this kind of environment here. It was actually in Bali. And I'm doing high-speed mentoring there in Bali for about 200 entrepreneurs, and she's one of them. And she gets in the room, and she's smart enough to bring the packaging. And on the packaging of this little tiny package, on the side of it, there's a starburst. And the starburst says, when you buy our gluten-free frozen food, it wasn't specific, you help us support a soup kitchen in India. And I remember just looking at that and saying, oh, I've heard of buy one, get one, but that's buy one, give one. And not thinking anything about that conversation any more than that. Some few weeks later, she calls me. So imagine this lovely Japanese accent, and she says, after buy one, give one, cannot sleep. And then she says, because I realized something. And I said, what do you realize? She says, oh, I realized that it kind of gets interesting when you think of buy one, give one, because she said, I realized, and this is what I call the let go moment. The let go moment. All of us need to have a let go moment. When she says, if I let go of that which I have, with a small amount of giving involved as one business, then what I can do is create something which will literally create a world full of giving. How powerful is that thought? And I said, there's buy one, give one, right? So how does that work? She said, oh, well, imagine going down to big electrical retailer and buying plasma TV. And I said, whoa, Miss Amy, you know, there's some commercial realities here. If I buy a big plasma TV, the retailer is not going to give me a little plasma TV, right? And she said, oh, you not understand. What I not understand? After a while you start talking like that. What I not understand? And she says, oh, you not understand that you buy plasma TV on account of how you want better vision. So imagine, she said, in this moment of genius, that you buy it for better vision. How it be, she said, if when you buy it because you want better vision, how it be if someone who cannot see gets the gift of sight? Wow. All of a sudden I say, can I continue to mentor you? And after a while the whole thing develops. So, you know, why not, let's have a cup of coffee and let's make sure that a kid gets access to water. Because one of them is dying every 22 seconds because of a lack of it. Let's imagine that every pizza that's sold, a kid gets access. Let's imagine paying parking fines in Christchurch. And let's imagine something good happening on the base of every single transaction. Would that be a happier world? You bet that would be a happier world. And that's where this goes. And then she says in this whole thing, as we develop this, she says, you know, giving is kind of interesting because most giving, this is actually my word, she said, is one-off. And I thought you mean like it's ad hoc. Yeah, it's ad hoc. But she said, see, that's the problem. It is ad hoc. You know, but what if it wasn't? See, it's ad hoc and there's no connection between that. It's like, oh yeah, here's the money, bang, I'm out of there, kind of thing. But what if it wasn't? In fact, there's all sorts of interesting ways of giving on the street, isn't there? Like, you know, or even through direct mail, we have these pictures that I think are designed to make us feel guilty, as if giving from guilt was sustainable. It's not sustainable. It just isn't. It has to be giving from joy and realizing that we, in fact, are the beneficiaries of that giving. Well, by the way, I love this one. Look, you can give in an interesting way on the screen. I swear that cat has been ironed. How about this one? Parents killed by ninjas, right? Need money for kung fu lessons. Revenge is sweet. There's all sorts of ways, right, of doing it. But what if it was not ad hoc? What if, in fact, it was a habit? What if it happened just as a result of all of the things that we normally do? What if it was the plasma TV giving the sight? What if it was all of those sort of things? Just think of all of the things that you can imagine. There are now 612 projects for you to choose from, covering 28 countries. Not bad for a little Japanese lady who said, I'm going to let go. What do you think? Here's a good example. You know, I think of totalexperience.co.nz. See, this is what their stuff looks like. It's pretty flat. But then you add giving to it, giving that you choose, and all of a sudden it changes. Save 1 hectare of rainforest every time you buy from the adventure range. Or a kid gets a ride to school, in India that is, when you buy from our drive range. Or clean water for a person every time you buy from our water range. Feed a child for a day every time you buy from our indulge range, and so on. You're getting the picture here now. And all of a sudden we get back to that connection that we started talking about. Let's go kind of really local, if you like. Let's talk about a really wonderful company here in New Zealand. Look at that one. That's Mini Monos. There's some people here from Mini Monos. How cool is it that here's this site that is teaching sustainable stuff to young kids, and the moment those kids join, a kid someplace else gets water. How cool is that? By the way, how cool is that? A little bit. Let's go to Auckland. How cool is it that here's this company that works with corporates, as you can see, doing what it does. But how cool is it that every time they sell a project or every time they do some trainings, that women in India get microfinance every time, habitually, effortlessly, every second, every day. How cool is that? I love this one. This is a company that's based in Singapore. They just did this conference in Shanghai in the life sciences. And they say, as you can see, when you participate in the conference, a kid gets to go to school. So as a result of this particular conference, 118 kids got to go to school for an entire year, which, by the way, cost them $15 to do, as in per person, as you can see over here, in Zimbabwe. Here's a great one. This is in Australia, an office supply company. Whenever you become a client of them, guess what? You start giving goats, which is kind of interesting because that particular goat gives a family in Kenya sustainable income for a lifetime. Just one goat does it. So there she is again, now 612 projects in 28 countries. Take a look at some of the stats. 1.3 giving transactions now, as Andrew was saying. So many square meters of rainforest, 546,000 people have got access to water just from doing the things that we normally do, and close to, this is the latest stats as of yesterday, 50,000 people were fed. I'm well aware of this guy. He wrote a book, and the first line of the book he said this: the only reason to give a speech is to change the world. That's what TEDx is about. And I hope that us and the fellow presenters here and all the people that have been involved, that in some way we impact your world as well. Because when we do that, you see, when we create the moments to wonder, to ask the questions, and we create moments to wonder, if you will, to be impressed, to ask why, to develop the wows, to develop the, what's that word again? Whoa. To, as I call it, embed the giving in every transaction. To become inspired so that we can then inspire. And, importantly, to let go of all of those things that hold us back. It's then, when we put all that together, that we seriously connect. Not just with ourselves, but with the human race. And then we get the big message. And the big message is that we seriously all are one. Thank you so much for being part of it.